Hey, good evening. Dave Valente here with Travis Aurednik, and we are in episode 2 of the Saturday Night Hockey Show. How you doing, Travis?
Doing good, buddy. How are you?
I am doing well because we have hockey back, man,
Yes.
and a little bit of live news. We've had a couple games today, and your Arizona Coyotes came away with the 5-3 victory over the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah, we were actually just making fun of San Jose for taking that time out, and then about 5 seconds later they put one in. I started to get a little bit nervous.
Oh man! All right, I'm gonna bring up the chat on. Make sure everything pops up here. So anyway, let's talk about first week, man. We have 4 nights now. We're on our 4th night of hockey, and so we're starting to see some things play out. Some things that we expected, and some things that we didn't expect. We were talking offline about the Tristan Yari having a brutal first 2 games.
Man, I called that one bad.
But I don't lay it on Yari. I think it's that team. I think
they got a weak back end right now. They have absolutely nothing. I don't even think the Letang showed up for the games, which is really saying something, you know?
No, not at all. So let's pop in here. So let's talk about with Pittsburgh. You got these aging superstars. You got Sidney Crosby. That guy's going to be hard to deal. If you wanted to take that leap, if you wanted to pull the Edmonton Oilers and deal off Wayne Gretzky, that's a hard one to deal for your fan base.
I don't know that Lemieux would let it happen. I really don't think that you ever see a time where Lemieux says, okay, go somewhere else. I think that it's, if nothing else, he's going to be a dynasty player because he sells jerseys.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that if he ends up requesting the move out, but I don't even know that he would do that. I kind of see him as the Pittsburgh till he hangs it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's a dynasty player. There's so many similarities between him and Lemieux. He loves Pittsburgh. He makes it known. He doesn't want to play anywhere else. That's where he got his cups. If he's going to get embarrassed, he's going to get embarrassed at home.
Yeah, there you go. But Evgeny Malkin,
not so much.
Yeah,
he's not the beloved son of Lemieux. He's definitely on the table.
Yeah, if I'm a team that's looking for something, a complimentary player to put in that either first or second line, I'm calling up Rutherford and saying, hey, what's it going to take? If I'm like in LA, and because LA has got more prospects than they know what to do with right now, I would be saying, which 2 prospects do you want? Which 2 prospects in a first-round pick do you want? Something along those lines, because Malkin in LA would be a big thing for them.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many teams that you could see Malkin on that it really would work. You can kind of put the pairing together for him already. Malkin in Ottawa with Tkachuk, that would be a fantastic fit. They've got a really solid young team that could probably use somebody to teach them something, which has been the theme of the year with Chara moving. Even last year with like Marlowe, and another one would be Florida. I think that Malkin and Barkov would be an awesome setup.
Yeah,
really, really get some Malkin, Huberdeau, Barkov, start to actually put some forwards out there that produce high, maybe get a little bit more depth out of it.
So talking about Florida, one of the big news items that has come out this first week. Now, Florida has been delayed in starting their season because they were supposed to start with Dallas, who had their COVID issues.
Right.
That start of the season for them has been pushed back to, for Dallas has been pushed back to the 22nd. Florida starts Sunday. There's been an interesting story that's emerged out of camp, in that Keith Yandle, who is number 4 in the NHL record books, Ironman streak, like 860-something games. He's a couple seasons behind Doug Harvey for first overall. there's talk he's not been practicing on he's been on the taxi squad practice, and today he did take some practice time with the main starters. But there's a chance that he doesn't start tomorrow, and that would end his streak. It's drawn so much condemnation because Keith Yandle is like a very well-liked,
Oh yeah,
player on his team. Like, people love to play with Keith Yandle. But it's drawn so much condemnation. Actually, one of the people that's commented is basketball coach Rick Pitino. Called out the Florida Panthers organization for even thinking about doing this. It's hard though, because you're talking about a guy that's put this streak together, but he is getting to the on the backside of his career. I mean, I don't think he even makes I don't think he'll break the record by any stretch of the imagination. But that the Florida Panthers almost become a slave to the streak, and I think that was Joel Quenneville just kind of putting the kibosh on that.
I mean, you can see both sides of it. One side, definitely, I understand if he's not performing the standard, what do you do?
Yeah.
The problem that I have with that is, though, it's the Panthers, man. They're not going anywhere. This isn't going to be their big cup run year. It comes down to Florida can either be nice to a guy that's given a lot to them, because he's been there since 2010, whenever he went from Arizona. I mean, the guy's been there for a long time. He's put a lot into Florida, and the guy's a living meme. His highlight reels are just him screaming at people on the ice, and it's not even words; it's just noises.
Yeah.
So he's a fun dude to watch play. He's definitely well liked. He's a very active, social media guy. He's on podcasts all over the place. At the same time, his personality doesn't constitute keeping him in play.
Yeah.
And I really hate that, because I do love Keith Yandle.
I wouldn't have done it first game of the season. I would actually have let his play dictate, when to end this streak. If you get 3 games into the season and he's like a -4 and just looks like a pylon out there, then then you can have that conversation about Keith, just not cutting it right now.
I agree with you completely on it. That would be the appropriate way to handle it. But
yeah,
I don't know what's going on with him in coaching either.
Yeah.
He's a very opinionated guy. That's something that is made very clear with his interviews, that he is not afraid to put it out there. So, I mean, if you've got a serious coaching staff that really is trying to make a difference this year, and he doesn't want to play team friendly, we don't know what's going on in that locker room.
Yeah. Well, apparently the word is that he has not even discussed anything with his management in several weeks.
And if he's not practicing, that's not a good sign on behalf of defending him.
Yeah.
If you won't even show up to practice, we'll make sure.
No, he is practicing. He's on the taxi squad.
Oh, okay. So he's B teaming it.
Yeah. So, but that's what's kind of raised everyone's awareness of, oh my gosh, Keith Yandle won't start the season with the Panthers.
You got to perform the A-team standard to get to play.
I hear you. Yeah, it's a difficult decision. Is Florida a slave to it? But again, a guy that's put in that much time with the team that and has that kind of a streak going, I let the play dictate it on the ice, and let the fans will say, you know what, he's not playing up to standards, and then when you make that decision, it's going to be a lot easier to sell it rather than just
it's a fan call.
Yeah, really. All right, so we are, like I've mentioned, we are a few games into the season. So let's take a look at the standings of the divisions. We'll move back to the East Division, but the Central Division. Tampa, no surprise, they came out and slapped around Chicago for a couple games. It's going to be a tough year in Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago right now is a bye week.
Yeah. They're a first over. Well, they're a lottery team at this point.
Yeah. At least they know it, though. They're not, with the lack of tapes, they're not really spirits are not high in Chicago.
Yeah. I mean, that's why this division is seen as kind of the weakest one, because you got both Chicago and Detroit. I know, wasn't Detroit mustered like what 14 shots in our first game against
And it
Carolina.
was not good shots. It was
Yeah, it was outside.
really weak. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so they'll probably have their own tank battle to get that first overall pick, or at least get in a position to get that first overall pick at the draft. Yeah, it's a very rough season. It's going to be a very rough season for them. Columbus only had the one game. They lost to Nashville. It was a good game. It was a 2-1 game. There was empty netter in that one. Saros stood on his head and got the win there. I'm not going to take, I'm not going to say that Columbus is in trouble just off that one game, but we are still looking at the issue with Pierre-Luc Dubois and what happens with that.
Yeah, and I mean, right now we've got so many games that are turning around. You watch the first game and it's, wow, what are they doing? You watch the second game and it looks like what you expect. It's interesting this year with the lack of preseason games, because these guys are just finally starting to actually throw hits again. They're just starting to get hit again. You've got serious play coming back, and those first games, they were really bad tune-up games.
Oh yeah, they were. But in fact, we'll discuss them here in a second. The East Division, Philadelphia ran all over Pittsburgh. Sabres, my Sabres are. That first game was just awful. As we were mentioning, that they looked like a team that hadn't played in 10 months. They couldn't connect a pass. That they scored 4 goals was amazing. As bad as they played, that defense was awful. They let a defenseman in on a breakaway. Like, how does that happen? How bad was your line change that you allowed a defenseman in on a breakaway? Second game, actually, I thought Buffalo outplayed Washington 5-on-5 that whole game. They drew penalties. They looked really good 5-on-5. When they got that power play on the ice, it looked like the first game. And couldn't really pass.
Couldn't put anything together.
Yeah. So they lost the second game 2-1. That was, if I get that effort in the second game, that over the next few games, I'm going to feel a lot better about this team. Do I think this team makes the playoffs? No. One of the concerns that I do have is that Jack Eichel looks slow, and I think he had a leg injury, a lower body injury in the preseason that kept him out for about 3 or 4 days before returning to the ice, and I just think he came back too soon, and I think he's still dealing with a lingering lower body injury, and that's it slowed him down. Kudos to the dude, because he still got 2 assists in that first game. I mean, he's still distributing the puck, but the game's not there yet for him, and same with Rasmus Dahlin. I think he's looked very pedestrian these first 2 games. That's being generous. I'm hoping that he finds his game. This is third year for him, and he needs to, you could ride off a sophomore slump, but once it gets into that next year and you're still doing the same things, then that's when you start showing concern for a player that was drafted that high.
Yeah, and I think that what we saw in Buffalo, or with Buffalo rather, is a really good example of that adaptation in hockey. Washington, again, like I said last episode, man, they're a super physical team.
Yeah.
And Buffalo is not as much, but they came out and they turned the physicality of Washington into something they could really use to draw some of those penalties.
Yeah.
They played into it well. Kudos to Buffalo for playing on their strengths and hitting the ice a little bit harder.
It was a very good that 5-on-5 play was tremendous last night. It just they couldn't beat Vanacek. Vanacek looks like a stud. I mean, but Buffalo has done that for rookie goalies. Like every time they play a rookie goalie over the last few years, it seems like they're Patrick Waugh in the making. So, I don't know if it's just playing Buffalo or if, Vanacek really is the real deal for Washington. But if that's true, then they've got two pretty decent netminders to play off each other, and they don't have to worry exactly about getting Lundqvist back next year, which I don't think happens.
Yeah, I think the Vanacek is very, very quickly going to become the first goalie for Washington.
Yeah.
I really think that's going to end up. Samsonov, man, I don't dislike him. He's a great backup. He never, even with Holtby there, whenever he was in net, he just never performed the standard. And I understand it was a rookie year thing, but still, there's a lot to be said for the new kid.
Yeah. So today I watched the New Jersey Devils game. They beat Boston 2-1. So both teams are now 1-0-1. It was an overtime game. I can't even remember this guy's name. It's a rookie Russian long name. But he broke in and scored with 1.7 seconds left to win the game. But I will tell you, Jack Hughes looked phenomenal in that entire game. He's looked phenomenal the first two games. He's got 3 assists. He looks fast out there. He looks like he's put on a lot of muscle. He's not getting knocked off the puck. That 10 months off for him did him a lot of good. I read an article about him going out and training. Spent the whole offseason training with his brother and a couple other players, and the guy that was training him was just effusive in his praise for Jack, and how he worked out, the muscle he's put on and added and everything. So this could be that breakout year that Jack takes that next step for the New Jersey Devils. New Jersey Devils playing they're playing a Lindy Ruff style of game right now. They took quickly to Ruff as a new coach, so we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, Boston, man, they went from on top of the world to bottom of the bucket in no time. You can tell that they're seriously missing the leadership of Chara.
Yeah, I think they do make a deal. In fact, one of the rumored deals is perhaps dealing for Yandel, who's a Boston native. Yandel's got he's got a new movement clause, but I think if they came to him with a Keith Yandel to Boston, I think he would waive for that.
Yeah, he'd be a good locker room presence. That's one of the things that you always hear about the guy. And as far as leadership goes, but even Boston on the power play, they were so just bad.
Yeah, I mean, their only goal today came shorthanded. Patrice Bergeron's just a stud. I mean, he knows how to get in there on that shorthanded and put it home. He made it look like Boston was on the power play at that point. But their power play was not that dangerous today.
Yeah, I mean, the entire team right now is Marchand and Bergeron.
Yeah, it really is. Until Costa gets back, I mean, their defensive leader is Charlie McAvoy right now. I mean, he's what, a third-year player now?
Second.
Yeah. So, second full year. He contributed during their cup run. Second full year for Charlie McAvoy, and that's your defensive leader. I mean, don't get me wrong, Charlie McAvoy is a good player, but it's way too early to put all of that on him.
Well, yeah, they're really missing guys like Krejci and Chara.
Yeah,
again,
Chara,
that's the entire leadership of the team.
And it's hard to replace Krug on the power play. I mean, that guy was a phenomenal power play quarterback for the Bruins, but without him on the ice, it's very, this is, I guess, the normal growing pains for this. But it'll be interesting to see how Boston progresses this season. I do think they take a step back. Let's see. The Islanders, they put a pasting on the New York Rangers. Rangers did not look good at all.
The Rangers have got to get their act together.
There's too much talent on that team.
Well, Lafreniere, as much as I like the kid, he does not have a place in this league right now.
No.
Lafreniere is where Capo Caco was last year and actually probably still is this year. He doesn't look bad. He looks like a very high-quality AHL player. I do not see him at the status that they put him at. I don't see him at the ice time that they give him.
Yeah.
Guys like Zibanejad and Panarin aren't connecting like they were last year. So until we start to see those guys start to connect again, which hopefully we'll see in the next game or two.
And they're just didn't look good either. So
yeah. So Panarin,
that Barzal goal was beautiful, but that was a very stoppable shot.
Yeah, and Panarin is going to have to pick it back up. Yeah, you mentioned last episode about his New York City lifestyle might get the better of him, and he doesn't look like the same guy this year. He just looks like he doesn't care.
He's got ads and all that stuff going now. Yeah, he might need a come to Jesus moment with the coaches. So let's take a look at the West Division. Going as we expected. This is another division that's going to has a very distinct top and bottom, but they're gonna beat each other up, and I need to refresh this because San Jose lost, so they're 1-1. Arizona jumped over them because they got 3 points now. The Arizonas look good. They're good on the face-off dot. I will tell you that right now. They were working Arizona at night.
Yeah, and two giant acquisitions that I didn't think would be as impactful as they have been. Tyler Pitlick and Derek Brassard. Both guys, I think, are phenomenal players. I didn't think they'd have the immediate impact they have. These guys have shown up big time, hardcore. Both of them are really grinding it in. And, I see way more potential out of those two guys than the majority of the remaining team from last year.
Speaking of showing up, and it may not last, but Phil Kessel has 3 goals in 2 games. Maybe he's developing a little bit of chemistry with his line. But yeah, it's good to see him. Or maybe he knows that if he plays well, he can get out, get Arizona a favorable deal at the trade deadline or something along those lines. But he'll have some suitors out there for a trade.
Yeah, Shoney's still got it.
Yeah, because if he put in the same effort this year that he did last year, that no one would come calling for Phil Kessel.
No, it would be a quiet retirement.
Yeah. Colorado and St. Louis had 2 pretty epic games. The first one, St. Louis got the best of Colorado. 4-1 win, and then last night, the Avalanche lived up to their name.
8-0. What a washout!
Yeah, they did.
I was embarrassed. 5 goals in, I said, "Wow, this is pretty cool." By 7, I was ready to cut it off. That 8th one, man.
Yeah.
This team on the power play, Colorado's power play. If this sticks all year, this is going to be the best unit in the league by a mile. 5 power play goals. Yeah. That's intense, man.
It was. That was a beatdown. So lesson to teams: don't take penalties against the Avalanche. But the problem with the Avalanche is they're so fast that they're gonna draw, and they do have good puck control. Maybe it was that first game sloppiness that they just didn't have in that game 1. But second game they had it going. They had the puck on the string, and St. Louis had to they drew penalties and made them pay.
Yeah, Colorado adapted super quick. It's going to be really interesting too to see where St. Louis goes the rest of the division, because I do put them as a top 3 team right now.
Everyone has Vegas, Colorado, and St. Louis they're the top. They're going to compete for the first three positions. It's just who's going to be four.
I think Minnesota's going to dark horse in.
Yeah, Minnesota had an interesting game. They were first game they were down to LA 2-1 in the third period and blew through Kirill. Can't remember his last name, but Kirill the Thrill, as they're calling him.
Sounds eerily similar to our hot dog man.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Minnesota maybe Kirill gives them the identity that they need and offensive explosion that they need. You can't really rely on Parise anymore. I mean, it's just this is a young man's game, and they've been waiting for this guy to come over, and he finally did. So, Los Angeles, that was a tough loss, but it was an overtime loss. They got a point, so they're in the at least they're not pointless at this point. Anaheim only one game, but it was, and they kept it pretty close against Vegas for a while. It was 2-2, and Vegas kind of erupted for 3 quick goals and put that one away the other night. Kind of living up, Vegas is going to be a tough team in this division. I still have Colorado as the cream of the crop, though.
Yeah, and also Vegas has got their new captain. Good for him.
Yeah.
I think everybody was kind of hoping that he would get it. I was kind of expecting Carlson to get it, really. I was a little bit surprised whenever Mark Stone got it. But, man, I'm really happy for him. That's a good guy to give the C.
Yeah. Bo Brown says comments enabled this week. They're not on the unfortunately, I'm still not getting it on StreamYard, so I've got the my phone showing the comments. So if you have comments, please feel free to drop the comments in the comment section on Facebook, and I will pop them over. I think if you're on YouTube, they do come over, but for some reason my Facebook just does not play well with this StreamYard. So this division is going to be interesting, especially that battle for fourth. Evander Kane, with all the legal issues that he has right now, actually has had a pretty good start to the season.
Yeah, I was watching him celebrate that good pop in, and the only thing that I could think was, I'm actually worth more than you right now because I don't have that much debt. Yeah.
Which is sad, but I mean, he kind of brings it on himself. I mean, I remember that picture of him with
the money,
holding money up to his head like a phone, and had like another handful of money, and he was in Vegas, and that money was
on a rooftop in Vegas.
Yeah. That money was gone by the end of that weekend.
Oh yeah, the guy's known for walking into a casino and telling him that I'm going to lose $1 million tonight.
He's lost $1 million. Which is sad because, I mean, he's made good money over his career.
Yeah, he's a valuable player. His money management is, on par with a 12-year-old. He's been saving up his lunch money so he can blow it at the arcade.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I was amazed. I mean, that does show a good amount of focus to put all the distractions that are going on in the world. The embarrassment of what's going on and putting that behind him and coming out and scoring a goal and putting out some helpers he had a tumultuous career in Buffalo, but I always liked him. I remember him in Atlanta. I hope he gets his financial house in order. I hope bankruptcy helps him out. I hope he gets help with his gambling issues and can move forward and play the rest of his career and make money and have some stuff on the back end.
Well, on the ice, those guys would not let him live that down, man. I would love to hear some of the stuff that was said to him, because you could see on some of those line changes, they were going over and they were targeting him.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's just trying to get him hot-headed and draw a penalty or two, which whenever you're leaving yourself open for it, you couldn't ask for a better situation for guys that are trying to draw penalties.
Yeah, exactly. So let's move on to the North Division, Canada. Look
This
who's
is
leading there.
definitely the division that I've been following the heaviest. I think this year this is the most interesting because you have so many super, super strong rivalries here. Just about every team that you look at, I can't look at Montreal without thinking Toronto. I can't look at Edmonton without thinking Calgary.
Yeah.
You're going to see some epic games in this division this year.
And-
I think right now the big surprise has been Ottawa actually showing up to play one. We'll see if it continues.
Yeah.
But they looked really good. I mean, they looked like a solid, well put together team. Their defense was defending, their offense was offending, and for a team like Ottawa, that's a pretty big step up.
Yeah, especially over the last couple of years. I mean, we were talking about this last week, where Ottawa really hit the doldrums after being an overtime goal away from getting into the Stanley Cup, and then they just they had the issue with Mike Hoffman and his girlfriend going nuts on Eric Carlson's wife, and then so they had to deal Hoffman, but then the lingering issues with that led Carlson to not want to sign a long-term contract with Ottawa, so he got traded. And them thinking that they were a Stanley Cup contending team, they made bad trades, including giving Colorado a lot, what ended up being a lottery pick.
And wasn't that the pick that McCarr?
It was the McCarr.
Yeah.
No, it was the one last year for the Canadian defenseman, Bowen Byram.
Yeah, Byram.
Yeah.
Wow, and that's going to be a stud on the ice.
I know. Yeah, I mean he could come over this year. I wouldn't be surprised to see him play. If we can't, if the developmental leagues are not playing, that they bring him over and get him on the ice. But yeah, so Ottawa has turned it around. I mean, there's got to be optimism within the Ottawa Senators camp, just because they've got Tim Stützle, phenomenal player. All of their draft, this last draft was just stud after stud. I'll look forward to see. I'm not actually going to look forward, because I'm going to have to deal with this team when they reset the divisions, and now all of a sudden Buffalo is playing Ottawa 4 or 5 times a season.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that when we reset back to the Atlantic Division, that is going to be an interesting division with Toronto, Montreal, or all and Ottawa all making strides in improving their play. Plus, you got your Tampas.
It has to be a massive morale boost for Ottawa to take down Toronto, and especially take down Toronto, not fluke overtime, not accidentally popping a few in. I mean, it was a skilled game.
Yeah.
Anderson showed up too. That's the thing that surprised me the most. If it looked like Anderson was having an off night, if he was letting in bad bounces, if he was almost letting in bad bounces, instead it was actually skilled, well-placed shots that were just beating the goalie. And it's something that I didn't expect to see from him this year, but I'm thrilled that it's happening.
Yeah, exactly. Edmonton, they split their 2 games with Vancouver. That was the first one they looked really sloppy, and it brought to mind all of the issues that I have with Edmonton, and that they just, if McDavid doesn't produce, then they're going to lose. And he didn't produce enough first game. That he overproduced the second game. He dropped a hattie on him and an assist. Edmonton still needs to balance out their scoring, and they still need to figure out what's going on in their back end, because it's still just not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely split it. It's the first game, Vancouver looked like the better team.
Mm-hmm.
And they looked like the better team in a big way. And it was pretty obvious from the first period who was going to win the game. There was no way to fluke that.
Yeah.
The second game, Edmonton looked like the better team. Vancouver just didn't
Well,
put forward as much effort.
they didn't, and I think they got a little comfortable after that first game. But I think it was Connor McDavid saying, you know what, you get Connor McDavid mad, and he's going
Yeah,
to drop a hat trick on you. I mean, he's got that level of skill.
yeah, a little fiery, redheaded McJesus.
Yeah.
He decides he wants it, he gets it, man. That's
Yeah.
one thing about the guy. You get him worked up, and he's going to go for it. I think that Vancouver, the team is young. Everybody on the team is young.
Yes.
I think they're very cocky prone. We saw it a lot last year with the young guys. And you've got guys like, Bo Horvat that had one really, really solid goal, power play, I think.
Yeah.
After that, man, he was riding around with a giant smile on his face, but not in a good way. It was I got my point this game. You don't need me. Somebody else needs to do their job. Exactly. It just doesn't look like a team. It looks like a bunch of guys are showing off for each other.
Well, that probably won't last long, at least success-wise in the NHL, especially this season with, you're doing back-to-backs and back-to-backs or, a night in between the games, but you're playing the same team twice. That's just not going to fly because you saw what happened with Edmonton. They came out that second game. They improved. It's going to happen every time you if you're able to take that first game, you're going to have to bring a better game the second game to get that win. So
yeah, it's a whole year of fast adjustments. Everything this year is going to be, what did we do wrong last night? We're going to fix it this morning, and we're going to show them this evening.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the way that they have that, I always think that when you play that second time, that the losing team is going to have the edge. I mean, unless there's like just a gulf in the talent level, like between Tampa and Chicago. But that losing team has the edge because they know what to fix. They know the issues to fix. Whereas when you win, you tend to have a more Pollyannic view of what you did on the ice, and that it was good enough to win, so we can keep doing it. So I don't know. So that's the league. I don't. I'm not going to write anybody off this early in the season, except for Detroit and Chicago.
Yeah,
they're
definitely.
They're bad. Even my Sabres. I'll tell you what. My Sabres, they 0-2. I'm not writing Pittsburgh off either. They may, maybe Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin,
Well, I think the Sabres are in the same boat as the Rangers. If they can figure out what to plug in, if they can make one connection, the whole team's going to light up.
Yeah, well, I'm not a big fan of Ralph Kruger doing this, putting a scoring forward on each line, because you gotta have guys like Jeff Skinner on the fourth line. Like that's just dumb. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
Put some
you
energy
need
guys on there. Yeah, put some energy guys on the fourth line that maybe a little bit of a hands of stone type line, but they're energy guys that go out there, they fly around, they keep the puck in the zone for 35 45 seconds and get a line change and turn the momentum of the game. That's the purpose of the fourth line. I'm not looking to them for scoring. I want Jeff Skinner on a line with either that first or second line where he's got skilled forwards that can get him in the puck because he's flying out there. But he doesn't have people he doesn't have complementary players on his line right now. They're good players. They're decent players, but they're just not. You're not going to compare Tobias Reeder to Jack Eichel or even Eric Stahl.
Yeah, you have to equip these guys to get it to net. You can't just expect one guy to get it. He's looking for McDavid results out of guys that just aren't going to do it. They're not one-man machines. They're going to have a little bit of help to get up there.
And normally I will say, what, a guy earns his ice time. But the first two games, Skinner was not, with the rest of the team, it was not a fantastic game for him. But that second game, he was flying. I mean, he was all over the ice. He had chances, even without being on a top line. He was creating chances out there. You know, you're paying a guy $9 million. You can't have him sitting on the fourth line and getting fourth line minutes. It's you might as well release the guy and take the cap hit. If you have that little of faith in that guy, that's probably what you're going to have to do. But Skinner's fine. I mean, I don't understand. He had a bad season last year, true, but he has that skill that doesn't belong on the fourth line.
No, I agree completely. And he's not going to get better if you keep treating him like this. It's not. No. He's not going to show his actual potential if he doesn't have a chance to. This so far has been a pretty interesting start with overtime play, shootouts.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen more in 2 days than we typically would in a week. Of course, we've got a lot more games in 2 days. But everybody seems to be going to overtime. And a lot of these goalies that I was sleeping on, I think the entire world was sleeping on, are showing that they've really got the stand-up potential that a lot of these teams need.
Yeah. I mean, Rask and Halak today, Boston's goalies don't look bad. Halak gave up the winner with 1.7 seconds left. It was a good shot. It was a nice break-in, good pass off the boards, so back behind the back pass off the boards that sprung the player but he faced several grade A chances from Jack Hughes, Kyle Palmieri. There's a rookie defenseman, Ty Smith, on the back end that's got a couple points in a couple games with New Jersey. That's looking like a nice young stud for They said the first defenseman to have points in 2 straight games in their debut since Slava Fetisov back in 1989, and he had been a Soviet professional for a decade before that. So
right, yeah.
No, that was an interesting little tidbit for that kid. So
they're in a weird flip flop right now. They're so much potential, but so unbalanced.
Yeah. Well, it's not a horrid lineup. I like Miles Wood. I like PK Subban. They just, everything kind of fell apart last year because they just didn't get the goaltending that they wanted. Corey Schneider just lost it. I mean, he went Byron Defoe. He had a really good run in Vancouver, got himself that starting position out in New Jersey, and he just lost it. Between one season and the next, it just went away for him. And then they bring in Corey Crawford. They think he's going to be the number one goaltender this year, and he retires right there at the beginning, right before the season starts. But I'll tell you what, Mackenzie Blackwood looked really good both of these games. I mean, it was a 3-2 decision first night that they lost in overtime or lost in a shootout, and then they got the 2 points tonight with the overtime win 2-1. So he's keeping the puck out of the net. And that first period of the first game, he faced like 16 shots and kept it scoreless. He kept New Jersey in the game that first period of the first game.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year for everybody. I'd say that we're going to see so many developments over the next just week because everybody has to conform so fast to their new shape. Nobody actually knows what they look like yet.
True. So let's talk about some of these new developments that we had this first few days. Sean Couturier of the Flyers, and man, those Flyers look good those first 2 games. He is out 2 weeks with a mild shoulder separation, and so 2 weeks. Any other season, you can get through that. You might play like 3 or 4 games, maybe 5. They're going to be upwards of 7 games before he gets back. That's a 2-week minimum. He could be out 2 to 3 weeks or 4 weeks, depending on how the injury heals up and whether he can keep it from getting aggravated again. So, you're losing a significant portion of the season because you're playing a condensed. So you're going to see 7 games, but that's 7 games out of 56 game schedule rather than 4 or 5 out of a 82 game schedule.
Yeah, I mean, these little injuries, a week, a 2 week, a month, the stuff that normally would be, okay, get healthy, we're going to possibly make a playoff run. Now it's absolutely killer. If you have 2 or 3 guys go down for 2 weeks on one team, they're going to drop, first, second in the league or in their division all the way to the bottom because everything's going to go past them so fast. 2 weeks is a fifth of your season.
Yeah, and it's I think that's why Jack Eichel came back so quickly on with his injury in training camp is that you do know that any time missed, even a week is could be upwards of 5 games, the way that the schedule's laid out, or 4 at least, and might lead to issues where players come back so quick to not miss that many games that they end up re-injuring themselves or doing more damage to whatever they have injured. That's my worry with Eichel is that he screws himself into the ground because he was so afraid to miss any time out of the season. So
yeah, I mean, it'd be so easy to cause permanent injuries right now, and especially stuff like concussion protocol.
Yeah.
If I was a player right now and I feel like I might be okay, I got one bad hit, I don't want to take that walk. That could put me out for the next 3 days. If that puts me out for 3 days, I could miss 2 or 3 games.
Yeah.
That's massive for these guys. They're not going to want to walk. So, you can have guys playing through it. And I mean, nobody wants to see another Korea situation. Nobody wants to see another Lindros. Even guys like Daigle that really got rocked and they just lost in the league. These guys are going to leave themselves open to that way more than they would have before.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to lose your chances at getting some play time. I think that this year you've got so many rookies in the league that are coming up that are going to be AHL come-ups because I don't see the AHL really doing much this year. So you have a lot of AHL rookies that are coming up that are going to be fighting as hard as they can to get a spot in the league. If I take 2 days off, third line, fourth line guys, and they put one kid in and he has a hot night, he shows up with 3 points, plus minus 2, and I haven't done much this year, I'm out.
Yeah, you're on the you're on waivers and heading to the taxi squad. Yeah, I get it, and that's exacerbated this season. Because those third and fourth liners do tend to put up with more injuries to maintain their status on the roster. But this season could, you could see, that coaches are going to be a lot more because they do have that leeway with the taxi squad that, if they think a player is not 100% that they pull them. And because 56 games, you drop a couple games here that you should have won, you're going to be on the outside looking in when it comes to the end of the season.
Yeah, this is the least player friendly season the NHL has had since your coach could fire you because you yelled at him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a perfect storm for players to get hurt. It's all guys are going to be trying to overperform. And as you said off air earlier, this could really be the rise of the enforcer again.
Yes.
You're going to have so much flaring tension between teams like Calgary and Edmonton. They already hate each other. You look forward to those 2 games every year because it is a guaranteed fight on site.
Yeah.
You know that you're going to see some heads get smashed. And then you've got teams like St. Louis that are all body. They're a physical team. Colorado embarrassed the crap out of them the other night. Yeah. So now they're going to face them 6 more times.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's going to be a headhunters league.
And it's not just that they're facing them a bunch of times, but the schedule is almost exclusively 2 games against a team.
Yeah, there's no cooldown.
Yeah, there's so that first game, like we saw it with the Boston New Jersey game, where first game Miles Wood takes a couple of penalties hitting Tuukka Rask, and first minute of the game, he's in a fight with Kevin Miller, and he acknowledges, yeah, I knew what I did first game was, probably I was talking to a buddy before the game, and I said, yeah, I'm probably gonna get pulled into a fight pretty quick in this game, and that's what happened. He obliged, and so yeah, I I will not be surprised to see some enforcers, at least on the taxi squads, and as we get closer to playoffs, you're going to start seeing them pepper the lineup every once in a while, especially against teams that you played like probably six of your eight games, or in the Canadian division, 8 or 9 of your 10 games. You're going to want that enforcer um, uh, to kind of ride herd in that, as the season wraps up, to make sure that your players stay safe out there.
Yeah, and I mean it's interesting too because you're going to get to see these really not normally starting lineup guys. You're going to see them get weaponized,
Yeah.
and it's going to get to the point I would say to where you check the lineup, fourth line, you see that there's a switch on a wing. You know what they're there for,
Yeah.
and another interesting thing. I mean, it's always big news in the NHL. I remember last year one of the biggest things was the Winter Classic, Corey Perry's bad hit, that
Mhm.
suspension. Everybody talked about that suspension for weeks.
Yeah.
These guys are getting upset already. They're making enemies quick. Are we going to see any major star suspensions because of tempers? You've got guys like Matthew Tkachuk. They love to fight. The
Yeah.
league's not going to put up with it this year. The league has enough stuff going on to not want fighting to be a prevalent thing. And those guys are not going to suddenly cool their temper. I mean, they've been doing this for years the exact same way.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it's going to be down to the wire to where you've got some of these guys that are really top quality players that are getting upset and getting themselves suspended, and it's going to be majorly impactful for their team.
Yeah. We've already seen one suspension and one questionable play. Sammy Blaze was suspended for an illegal check, and then last night there was a very blatant elbow thrown by Jared McCann of the Pittsburgh Penguins in that game, and it appeared he went out of his way to throw the elbow. Like he skated towards him with his elbow out to hit, and it made contact with the head. Thankfully, the player was not injured, and I think that played a role in him not getting suspended. But for me, if you're going to take that hit out of hockey, that's something even if it doesn't cause injury, that you uh, want to kind of nip in the bud early on with a suspension, like a game.
Yeah, in today's league, not disciplining is allowance. That's
Yeah,
just what
it's
it boils down to.
$10,000, and Jared McCann, maybe not the a $9 million player, a season player, but still, that's budget dust. You
Yeah,
know,
but that's going to be players' pool in the locker room.
yeah,
Everybody pitches in 750, and they forget that it ever happened.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know. It'll be interesting because I do. This is a this is a season that is going to get very heated very quickly with the way that it's structured. Um,
Well, and these divisions make rivalries easy.
yes.
You
Well,
know,
they
the very
stuffed with
worst.
rivalries. They're stuffed with rivalries, like that Canadian division. Yeah, you're right. They're two just natural, and even you can even throw in Ottawa with Toronto and Montreal. Not as strong, but there's still that rivalry there. And then there's that that the Western teams are starting to even with like Winnipeg and Vancouver, you're starting to see
Yeah.
much more rivalrous uh, play there. I think with Montreal, or I'm sorry, with the West, because those teams tend to be in different divisions. With the three in one division and the Jets in the other, I think you're going to start to see um, that rivalry really heat up. with the Jets and the Western teams, just because they're getting much more exposure to each other now.
And one of the games that I'm looking forward to the most this season, it sounds so dumb, is going to be Chicago Detroit, because
The tank roll,
yeah, yeah, man.
tank battle.
It's just a fight on site for both of them. It's
Yeah,
just going to be, can we hurt these guys? They know nobody's watching. I don't even think that the league's going to be watching to suspend players. It's
yeah.
just,
I mean,
it's men's league hockey with really nice sweaters.
maybe not, but I mean, they're gonna. It's gonna end up being like in just a quick update. The Rangers have a 1-0 lead on the Islanders early on. 9:25 left in the game, or net left in the first there. Uh, yeah, they're. I don't know. It could be fun, old style hockey with lots of fights, or it could end up being like watching that final Sunday night football game of the year with the Philadelphia Eagles trying to lose the game. Like they're scoring on their own net.
For what we've got in net for both of them, I think that if they scored on themselves, they try to blame it on being an accident just for
Yeah,
sake of saving face.
exactly. Like, oops, I played it off the goaltender. A little Steve Smith action. So I've got a hard stop tonight, but we're at almost an hour right now. But any other thoughts you have on the first few nights of the season?
I'm surprised by some of what we've seen. It started off rocky. I
Mm-hmm.
think that after a week of play, we're really going to know where people were settling into, where players are settling into. And I think that within the next 4 or 5 days, we're going to see 5 or 6 really substantial injuries, because your guys that aren't good at this back-to-back play, they're going to drop off quick.
Yeah, I think Couturier is just the tip of the iceberg. I think you are going to start seeing, you're going to start seeing players speaking out against this schedule. Um, and perhaps pushing to move the start of next season back, because they are, you're going to have a very condensed schedule going into July, and then you're turning around and starting the season on time for 2022, 21-22, and uh, they're going to feel that with the condensed schedule moving into a full season with a very short off season will lead to more injuries, and we could see them trying to get that season pushed back a little bit.
Yeah, you should not see your Stanley Cup Finals and then 2 weeks later your training camp.
Yeah, well,
That's
I mean they're gonna have like a month and a half because
no,
it's
but I'm
July.
saying that
Yeah,
it's too much, man. That's way
yeah.
too close.
The you'll have July. You're going to have players switching teams. You're having a brand new team take the ice, and you're going to try and do uh, the disbursement draft for the Seattle Kraken. It's going to be. I will not be surprised to see if there's a thought to moving the season back. It doesn't have to be great, but
No, October 1st would be a great time to open the season.
well, I mean that would be the great time to. Oh, and Montreal just scored Jeff Petrie. Uh, so they're leading Calgary 1-0. But yeah, this is. I'm sorry, not Calgary. They're leading Edmonton 1-0. Um, uh, but yeah, that would probably be where I start the training camp is maybe October 1, even all the way to October 15th, and we start at the same time the NBA season starts, which is like October 31st. I think that's where you need to see the season start. Give a little bit more time for players to rest and recover from this past season because it was so condensed. Um, but yeah, I will be interested to see what comes of the season, because injury wise, whether we have like some severe like long term injuries that not only threaten this season or wipe out the season for a player, but threaten a good portion of next season.
Yeah, I mean, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see some serious NHLPA, really speaking out against this season. They already were pretty against it. I think that the reason that anybody said yes to this was because the players voted for paychecks instead of safety.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, it's when you look at Evander Kane, you don't have money. You want to make some money. So, yeah, yeah, I don't blame them for coming back to get their paychecks, but
I think a lot of them are going to decide it was a bad idea, and that's where you're going to start to see the action on that front.
And you're already starting to see some issues. COVID started to it hit Dallas. We just got Dallas back on the ice today for their first practices, but then we lose Winnipeg Jets, close their training facilities because they have had an outbreak. I don't know how many people, they haven't said.
Yeah, they're very, very tight-lipped about that.
Yeah,
the leak has been so far. We don't even know who on Dallas has it.
yeah.
We just know that they won't even say actually if it's players or staff. I mean, it could be, the guys that scrape the ice have it because they all went out for a beer together. None of the players have seen sight or sound of it, and they're still off. We don't know.
Yeah, the collective bargaining agreement did put that provision in there that they can't reveal who's got COVID. Like the NFL tells everyone who's on the COVID protocol list.
Yes, we can shame them. How dare they get sick?
Why'd you go to the strip club, man? But yeah,
that's the thought.
Yeah, and we're just not going to know. But I think there's not a whole lot of leeway built into this season, and I'm wondering, if you end up with a team like Dallas that gets a massive outbreak, and are they going to expand rosters? Are they, to basically have an AHL team play those games instead of the top team, or are they going to, put games on the back end of the season, or are they just going to say?
That's what it looks like they're doing now. Is they're stacking the games onto the back, and I think that we had put in a little bit of time between regular season and playoffs with the anticipation that they would need to have a little bit extra time to make up a few of these games. But that doesn't mean I want to see Dallas play twice in a day.
Yeah, and they're not going to do that, but they're going to end up, let's say that they have a good season, and then they have to play Florida a couple of times at the end. They're going to be a little more gassed rolling into the playoffs than another team that didn't have any COVID issues and made it through the season. So
it's really player punishment at this point. For controlled circumstances, which is another reason I think that the association will get involved before the end of the season.
But you know what? I think that this actually is helping keep these teams, in protocol rather than like with football, you have guys being seen at the strip clubs and having parties in Miami and all that stuff, and losing a fraction of the season for them. But that's a 53-man roster.
Yeah.
That's you got 25 guys on the roster, and you got the taxi squad. There's still a chance that if you get like Dallas was double-digit personnel that was impacted.
I think we're up to 14 now because it just went up again. It was like 11, and then I think it bumped up a few more.
Yeah. So I don't know. They'll definitely have issues towards the back end of the season just because of they really haven't put in. They've thought it out. I know that they've thought it out. They put a lot of thought into it, but this still can go very sideways just because we're really in a kind of a hotspot outbreak time right now.
Dallas is a hotspot outbreak area.
Yeah,
I was in Dallas a few weeks ago, and I mean it's business as usual in the city of Dallas.
Yeah,
you see a mask every now and then. It's I was actually at one of the Stars training facilities in Mansfield watching a men's league game.
Yeah,
and it's just you'd have had to really try to convince me that something was going on in the rest of the world outside of Dallas, Texas, which that's another NHLPA issue. I mean, do I want to play there if there's no anything being followed? There's no protocol. I've got fans in the building. I'm not requiring masks to be worn. Players aren't going to want to go to Dallas.
No. No, well, and I think that they're going to want to get the hell out of Dallas as soon as the game's over. Although if you're playing, the danger comes in when you have a game against Dallas and then you have an off day, and then you have another game against Dallas. You got those guys sitting in that city for 3 days, 3 nights, and temptation. Do they go out to the club? Do they go party? Do they interface with anybody, or do you keep them locked down in the hotel?
And that's definitely an area. Again, I was just there
Yeah.
in November. It's definitely an area where if you want to do stuff and act like nothing's going on in the world, you are more than welcome to go to Texas. They welcome you with open arms. It's just business as usual.
Yeah, Bo Brown says NBA straight calling out the COVID players helps with accountability. It does, but we're still seeing just a ton of NBA players and games getting canceled and players going out on the list. Um, Hopefully, hockey players are a little more disciplined on that, but I don't know. I mean, they're young guys with money.
Yeah, I don't think sport regulates or determines
Yeah,
if you want to do stuff. If I was 25 years old with $17 million in my wallet in a city where I could do whatever I want for the next 24 hours, I don't know if a virus is enough to stop me, man. That's
yeah. I mean, especially
especially when
guys
it's
that are
been my house.
young and healthy, and think that nothing's going to go wrong with them, and that's the hard thing. I mean, these are young, top of the shape athletes, and but the thing that worries me about with COVID is some people are getting the heart conditions based off of COVID, getting COVID. You're a young athlete. That's you get a heart issue. That's potential early retirement stuff,
Yeah, that's a death
especially being that
sentence.
hard. I remember watching that Dallas game with God, what was his name? Savard, Mark Savard, when he you know basically died on the bench and was brought back.
Well, and last year you had Jay Bomeister
Yeah,
go
Joe
down.
Meester.
He actually retired the other day.
Oh
He
yeah,
retired without playing a game this year. I guess that was enough. Henrik Lundqvist, even with basic maintenance, because he's not getting any younger. Hank's
uh,
getting up there
I
for
think
a
he's done.
professional athlete. I do too. But basic maintenance put him out for an entire season. If you end up with a serious condition that's what you're stuck with,
Yeah,
that's you. That's it. That's
yeah,
a death sentence for your career.
yeah, exactly. So maybe they take that to heart and stay disciplined this year. But yeah, we're gonna have outbreaks because you're not just talking about players staying disciplined. You're talking about coaches, support personnel, trainers, all that stuff. They all have to stay disciplined for you know 5 months.
Yeah,
And
man, it could be the guy that's, you know, tightening a pipe on the second floor bathroom and you happen to go in there to wash your hands and he
yeah,
hadn't washed his hands before he washed his hands. And now all of a sudden an entire plane of guys has got it.
yep.
So you
Or
can't put it all on players.
yeah, or we get to 3 months into the season, and player on Chicago is like, we're this season's toast, and you know I'm tired of living these protocols, and I want to go out and have fun tonight because this season just sucks. And they go out and they have a good time and get COVID, and they spread it to their teammates, and their teammates spread it to the opponent, who may be a first place team, and it gets really nasty.
Yeah, especially whenever they end up in another city the next night
Yeah, it could.
and they're doing the exact same thing as happened to them. We would know within 2 or 3 days whether or not it's going to be an actual issue. But 2 or 3 days is a lot of damage in this league right now.
Oh yeah, as
It's just like
compact as the
injury.
schedule. Yeah. All right, so I do need to wrap up. Let me go through the scores that we got right now. We've got a 2-0 lead for the Rangers. Looks like they're having a nice bounce back game against the Islanders. 2-0, 8 shots on goal to 9 shots on goal. So it's fairly even, but Looks like they're having a better game. Canadians still lead the Oilers 1-0. Hurricanes and Red Wings are still tied at 0. That's got to be a win for the Red Wings. And by the way, Bo Brown is our resident Red Wings fan. I say that. He says, as a Wings fan, I'm glad it's only 56 games of last place. So,
sorry, bud.
you know what? They had so much success for so long.
It's hard to feel sorry for a team like the Red Wings. They didn't feel sorry.
Nobody's going to feel sorry for the Patriots over the next few years, you know?
Yeah. We're just going to teach them how to be losers like the rest of us.
Yeah. So Maple Leafs and Senators are tied at 1, 4:41 remaining in the first. So everyone enjoy their night of hockey. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week. Unfortunately, I had a time constraint this week. I got a meeting at 8 o'clock. So, but we'll continue the conversation next week. Travis, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
So next week, I'm not wearing a Buffalo Sabres jersey. What jersey are you wearing?
I got the Arizona 2019 Veterans Day warm-up.
Oh, nice. I'm wearing
it's flag patch and all.
Oh, sweet. So I'm wearing the Buffalo Sabres demonic goat head jersey, the Adelphia years for Buffalo. And my favorite player from the era, Miroslav Shatan. I wore this jersey on Atlanta Metro when I would go to see Buffalo play. I never got messed with on Atlanta Metro when I wore this jersey. People like
man, that's the most metal jersey of all time. You got Satan across your back.
Satan on your jersey, man. I get like the old little church ladies on the train, like, you know, doing the sign of the cross and saying prayers for me and stuff like that, you know.
Nothing says Satan like that logo.
Yeah.
So every time I think of him, that's what I go to, and it makes it really weird for like religious stuff. I don't know, man.
So
you ever hear me get to church? That's why.
But you know, if they actually spelled his name as it's written in Slovakian, the letter S actually has this little V on top of it, so it looks like devil horns. I think it would have been far better if they did that on the jersey, because you know, the little devil horns on the Shatan.
Yeah, they should have done it, man. Ethan Bear gets his native script on his jersey.
That was cool. I liked that.
I think they should have just left it.
Yeah.
I think all the Russian guys should have Cyrillic, and you would have so many confused number 81. He'd just be number 81 his entire career.
Like the guy that scored for New Jersey today, I would never have known what his name was. Well, I mean, I can read Cyrillic actually, so but yeah, that would have been a lot of fun. But anyway, thanks everyone for joining. I'm going to wear a different jersey next week. It will not be a Buffalo jersey. So
I might switch out of Coyotes too.
All right, I'll break out something from the Wayback Machine for me. So thank you for joining, and we'll talk to you next week. Have a good week of pucks, everyone.
Later, guys.
And this being live, it's being a bigger.